All right, well, it's 7 o'clock. I don't see anybody else in the waiting room, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We might have some people that are joining us mid-program, but I'm sure they'll have no problem catching up. Thank you again, everybody, tonight for joining us for another installment of our Drink and Draw program. We are very excited to welcome back our guest artist, Hannah Sandvold. Once again, Hannah, welcome. But before we get started, I just want to say real quick, I just want to give a thank you to the Wisconsin Veterans Museum Foundation for their continued support in making these free programmings available for everybody out there. Not only Drink and Draw, but also our trivia nights, our movie discussions, and all the other programming that we are going to be coming up with in the fall as well. So thank you, a big thank you to the Wisconsin Veterans Museum Foundation, and in particular to their executive director, Miss Jennifer Carlson. I guess I don't have too much to say. I want to just turn it right over to Hannah. She is going to be working under the theme of cartoons tonight. So this should be really fun, and we are definitely curious to see what everybody comes up with in their drawings tonight. Hannah, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. Welcome, everyone. Great to be back 1 month later. Good to see some of you joining again. Welcome those of you who are new. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my screen share right now. And like Eric said, tonight's theme is comics. And what we are going to be doing is we are going to be working, where to put the Zoom screen, here we go. We are going to be working both from historical photos, which I have featured on the left side, and then historical comics on the right side. And Yvette is going to have stories to go with a lot of these, but for this first pairing, we're going to go ahead and just get started. And what I have in mind, what I will be doing is I will be drawing the photo in the fashion of the cartoon. You can do that with me. You can go ahead and just draw the photo or the cartoon. It's really up to you. And I'm excited to see what people are able to come up with. But without further ado, this first pairing.
Hannah, before you start.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to chime in. This is Yvette, everybody. Welcome. If you guys, this is the first time we're doing 2 images on screen. So if there's anybody that's having trouble seeing the images, feel free to let us know in chat. And if you are on a desktop, and you can always go to our webpage where the blog post has the images to see a little bit larger one. But just let us know in chat if you have any visibility issues. Thanks. Sorry, Hannah.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. Yes, please do. I'm going to try to go back and forth between both images so that we're able to see them in a bit more detail. But to begin with, what I'm going to do is sketch out the basic shapes that we see on the left side and plot the whole image before we start getting into the details. As you'll see throughout the evening, the cartoon styles are going to be what varies the most, although we have some pretty exciting photos that we're working from as well. So this first pairing, pretty straightforward. We have our figure. It's a front-on view, should be pretty simple. And if we're following the cartoon to the right, the idea is going to be to choose an area of focus and give that the most detail. And as the image radiates away from that focal point, which as you can see is his face here, details will get a bit more scant, but they're still there to flesh out the image. So what I'm going to do now is pipe down for a little bit as I do just that. And I will chime in with occasional advice to do with portrait work, since a lot of what we're doing tonight is going to be portraiture and how to do that in a truthful way to the image and how to exaggerate based on the image. So that's right, really just plotting shapes, making sure that everything is in proportion. You have something to draw into with more detail. And Yvette, if you want to go ahead and chime in at all with anything about this first image. I know you said you have more stories for later ones, but go ahead.
Yeah, so each week we try to like cover a theme. This week we have a couple different themes. One tomorrow, as a reminder, is VJ Day, which is the end of World War II. And I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the artists who you see these wonderful images. The images you guys see here are images from our collection, from our archives, and the drawings are also part of our collection. So we have this really wonderful treasure trove of items to choose from for our, for visual reference for these drink and draws. On the left, you'll see Helen Bolovsky, who is a nurse that served during World War I. And the reason why I selected this image was because the 19th Amendment, the ratification of the 19th Amendment is coming up, that anniversary, and we recently did a video about women in service and women that believed serving their country in the capacity of military service lent them another reason to have the privilege of the vote. So Helen Bolovsky, we have an incredible collection of women in service in World War I, and this is her as a surgical nurse coming out of the surgical tent. So I was really happy that Hannah selected one of these images. I gave her a bunch to choose from. And then the drawing that we're referencing in the style, the cartoon style of this, is from the John Winner's collection, and I'll get into that in the next round.
Thank you. So as I'm working into it here, I think I want to plot a bit more of the image before I start doing the detail work that we see here. It's coming together. It's looking more and more like her, hopefully. Every should.
And I would say on this one, if you look at the drawing on the right, Hannah, like he's being captured in, his place of work. He ran a prisoner of war camp. And again, I'm going to go back into his story for the next one, but Helen is in her place of work. So the details on this may not have all of the little details like the flowers on the table, but there are still very distinct identifiers of where she is in the place of her service.
Yeah, that's in part why I chose this pairing too, is the setting being important to both of these figures, and really kind of being the emphasis, even though it's not, the detailed focal point.
I'm going to bring some more music in, but I wanted to find some that didn't have words, so it wasn't so distracting when you're trying to teach.
I'm going to start pulling in some of the tent lines behind. And at this point, I'm still doing a pretty preliminary sketching style. Not this cartoon, but in a lot where they have gone back in and inked over. The idea is to get the rough idea out first and then finalize. Just get some of the tent details in here. And if we're referencing these lines, I won't have to develop a whole lot more because they are the peripheral. We want to go back in and focus more on her. So we won't spend too much time out here. It should at least look like a tent. So a few more lines. And for those of you who are wanting to plan how you use your time, if you're just doing your own thing tonight and want to focus on one image over others, we're going to spend about 12 minutes per instructed drawing. And then we'll have a shorter one at the very end. So I'll try to hold to that time. So now's the part where I feel like we have enough of the setting to give an idea, and we're going to really want to, in the same fashion, kind of give shadows and more line work closer and closer to, I think her face makes the most sense. The goal is to really capture her expression. So we're going to come in here and try to do that as best we can. So. It's always tricky working with a stylist, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better, even just in the two, well, one and a fourth sessions that I've done here. So that's been kind of fun. I'm going to bump a little bit more, just so that I don't have to work quite as many layers into the mark making. Adjust tools here, make it a bit easier to give some value to this. Just come in and I'll pull her forward even more. I'll pull back here so that both reference images are visible again. Hopefully they're still visible. As I'm looking at time, we'll give this one 2 more minutes. So this is really sort of served as our warm-up piece. I thought it would make sense, even if it seems a little counterintuitive, to move from a more realistic style towards more of a caricaturized one, as we'll see a couple images from
I think this one's kind of fun too because it's black and white and you can in some ways use your imagination of what colors to add in there. If you wanted to do a little bit more of a color addition to it, like the flowers and the uniform on the winter cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if anyone's working in colors, hopefully you'll be willing to share when we have a chance. All right, come back in and do the last bit of facial detail. I probably should have started a bit larger so that I had a chance to, oh, not that large. Really try to capture her expression. Again, with the reference cartoon for this one, it does seem to be more about the place of work, like Yvette said. But I would say in most of the following, you know, they're really about storytelling. So the expression is going to be what says a lot. So, okay. And obviously, you know, any of these you can continue to work on over the course of the evening. All the reference images are on the blog, and this is, you know, mostly to get everyone started.
Yeah, and I think we'll go through a couple of drawings, and then at some point, like maybe midway, Hannah, we can ask people if they want to share any of their drawings. But
yes, I agree.
Keep going on to the next one whenever that as your time progresses.
Yeah, I think now is a good stopping point. So we'll just take a second to size it up. And as I'm noticing, I did more value work, and a lot of the mark making in the cartoon is sketching and, you know, shading via not quite cross hatching, but individual lines to make up. So
it was very restrained in that drawing. It's just lovely the way they added the color on there. Just a hint of detail.
And, you know, consideration to the flowers, even though they're not particularly intricately drawn. It's important to show the color. Really brightening his day, I think.
Yeah, and if everybody here has a chance afterwards to go to the blog post, you get to be able to see these images a little bit more up close. I would take some time to look at the details of the drawings. There's a lot of fun and interesting information in there by some very talented artists.
All right, moving along. Up next, we have these two gentlemen. And before I turn it over to Yvette for the stories behind them, what we're going to notice about this cartoon is it is much less adherent to reality. It is very exaggerated. This larger-than-life figure in this small Jeep, a lot of detail is paid to his face, uniform details, bits on the truck. But mostly line work. So what we're going to do for this one is I'm going to start out with the sketchy lines again, and then switch my tool to a much darker one and try to do individual lines like this. A nice high contrast line work piece. And with that, Yvette, why don't you take it away?
Excellent. Well, as Hannah's drawing, I'll just give you a little background info. The photograph is from the John Copeland collection, and he is a Vietnam veteran. And my story for this one is not his collection. He has a lot of fun. I say it's not from his collection, but we chose images from his collection because he has a lot of interaction with he and his buddies having fun in the midst of some very, you know, not the greatest living circumstances, but they're always goofy shots in his photo collection. The drawing, as is the drawing from the previous example that Hannah used, is from, I mentioned, the John Winter collection, and he served in World War II, and I'm going to just read a little bit. I'm not going to go into great detail, but he was, forgive me, I want to get to the part. I lost it, but he was the officer at a prisoner of war camp in Germany. And these drawings are actually not his drawings. So we have drawings from service members that actually were the artists. This one is something that I'm finding as I'm learning more about our collection is something of a little bit more of a frequency where those that were in charge of prisoner of war camps actually received drawings from the prisoners within the confines of their camp. These drawings were from the secretary in the office. A German officer actually rendered these images, and the scrapbook is quite breathtaking with several examples of these really skilled drawings. Some of them have caricature, like the one you see here. Others are more detailed, like Winter sitting at his desk in the previous drawing. But the reason why I brought these out is because they're a really great example of service members interacting with the enemy or prisoners of war and actually coming home with, in some ways, you know, tributes to them and their treatment of the prisoners in the prisoner of war camp. But these drawings are fun. You can see they actually would, in some ways, have to have a kindred relationship in order for these depictions to be shared. So I really, I liked the fact that the Winter collection has these amazing drawings, but also in Winter's collection, we have his letters, and he does talk about the end of the war in his letters, and we're approaching VJ Day tomorrow. So I think it's just appropriate all around that we're able to capture his story tonight, the night before VJ Day. Also, Hannah, when we get to the next drawings, I think we want to talk a little bit also about why people might draw cartoons in military service. What are the different reasons why you might have a service member drawing or a prisoner of war drawing, and what the types of things they are deciding to draw? What is their subject matter?
Yeah, okay. And we might want to pull some of the blog images up too, since I've really only
For sure.
selected a few, but yeah.
I'll have those prepped.
Excellent.
Hi, Hannah. This is Molly, and we got a question in the chat for you.
Oh,
If you could talk a bit more about the steps and how you're working.
yeah. I did kind of go into it here as Yvette was sharing. So what I'm noticing from the reference cartoon is the areas we want to focus on are the head and gestures. We're going to zoom into it for a little bit, but again, referencing this line work, his body is proportional to itself, but his head is a lot bigger, right? That is kind of the first step in, you know, caricaturizing anyone. You know, we've all seen varying degrees of the big head, but, you know, the face and expression is the most important thing to get, right? But also gesture. So, you know, the way he's leaning back, the way he has a foot extended, all of these convey that, you know, a certain feeling, a certain, you know, type of energy. So in observing that in this reference image, what I've tried to do is, we already have a bit of assistance from this drawing because he's actually leaning towards us, but, you know, we are really trying to capture this mid-bite expression, kind of, you know, very aware of photos being taken, but not bothering to pose for it, continuing to eat. So I've tried to make his head a bit bigger. We want to make sure that we get the hands right. And now I'm working on getting the proper lean before we then come back in and do the ink work. And unfortunately, part of what makes this cartoon so evocative is that it was inked with a brush. You get this, you know, line width variation. that lets simple marks in the clothing do all of the shadow and value work without actually having to go in and shade or anything. My stylus does not have pressure sensitivity, so all of my lines will be of a even value and won't have the same effect. But if you're at home and are working with paint or charcoal or something that lets you vary that width a bit, I would really emphasize that as part of what makes this this simple cartoon so effective. Give it a go. Time here, we'll want to move on to that phase. So I think we've really gotten the most important features of this particular helmet. We've got hint of scenery, but obviously that is not as important in this as it was in the last one. You know, if you have time to get his bag in there, great. I'm just gonna throw some lines over there and you know what it is. But I'm gonna come back and focus on him for the rest of it. So, I'll get a little more detail in his face. But obviously I'm simplifying those features as well. We don't need to draw eyelids or particularly detailed features. We're going to make him pretty stylized. All right. Now I'm going to bump up the opacity. I think this is probably an okay width. And I'm going to come in and trace over the details. Actually, I'm going to switch to a nice jet black. If any of you happen to be working on a tablet or computer screen as well, I usually like to sample colors right from the image at hand, because that's a very easy way to make it look connected. Okay. Oop. My hand's a little shaky tonight, so I'm probably going to have to retry some of these lines a couple times. But I'll also keep moving forward. Hard to do on a tablet. I tend to prefer working in a sketchbook, and I use a variety of different tools. I really like doing pen and ink, and I've been working with brush pens a lot lately as well.
And I know you do cartoon work in your own personal wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
When you're thinking about making a cartoon, what's usually the subject or style, your go-to style?
Yeah. Well, crafting one's style is, a long, frustrating process in college when you're trying to make your work stand out and look unique. But it's actually showing through a little bit here. I tend to do fairly true to form, but slightly exaggerated in this kind of way, proportions. And I really like capturing funny everyday moments. A few years back, I was an after-school recreational teacher through MSCR. So I got to hang out with elementary school kids for 4 hours a day, and there's a lot of material there. A lot of funny everyday moments. So I did a pretty enjoyable series based on their goofy selves.
Yeah, I think some of the exaggerations starting to come out now that you're adding these top layers where you see a real skinny neck and the big kind of flowing collar.
Yeah, and I am, as I see here, going back in and doing more than just single lines, just to try to get some of that line width, and also correct for my mark making. Something that I find frustrating, in part because I actually have a bit of a hand tick. So my hand is always jiggling. I can never get the line that I want the first try. So my particular comic style, when I ink it, is double lined. If I make 2 lines, they usually average what I want. So if that's something that's irritating to you, there's a way that you can work it in to become your style. You just have to, vote a little, finding an alternative. And as I'm seeing here, time continues on. I'll make a few more marks. I think I want to refine how I did his face just a little bit. But then we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Oh, yikes.
And I think also if you're drawing from home, the cartoon that we're styling this off of is what we've talked about as caricature. So really exaggerated features, identifying something in your subject that stands out to, designate what's happening in the situation. So in the winter drawing, he's larger than life, meaning he literally is larger than a vehicle. So that indicates the type of figure that the subject is. In this one, John is eating, which anybody that's had to eat food in the field knows it is not that edible. And I was an Army cook, so that comes roughly out of my mouth to say that the food in the field is not always that edible. But so in this moment, this sort of smirk, this side-eyed smirk that John has looking into the camera, if you want to go overly exaggerated, you can think about making that mouth a little bit bigger, or even his expression of, I'm not quite sure what I'm about to consume. And so that's why this one's a really fun one for caricature. And the spiky of his hair is really fun too. I like how you put the little spikes in there.
Yeah. All right. It's not very complete, but I think we better keep moving on. So.
Well, and I was going to say, if anybody's got any of their drawings that they want to show, maybe we can do a little show and tell really quickly.
Now would be a perfect time. Just stop share here.
If I was going to say, if you want to show and tell, just hold up your drawing really quickly, and I'll pin the window so folks can see your drawing.
Yeah.
If not, it's okay. But don't.
And it can be either one so far.
Oh, okay. We see. Let me pin you, Carol. Hang on just a second. Good job.
Nice.
He's got that smile on his face. That's the smirk I was talking about. Well done. Thank you. Just wondering. Okay, I want to make sure
So this one isn't comic character.
That's right. I always know you come with wonderful drawings. Thank you. That's a great dog. What's he wearing on his back? Is that like his own satchel? Well, we're freezing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like his pack of gear.
Yeah, good. Even a dog has to have his rucksack, so well done. Okay,
awesome.
Let's see. I changed my gallery view. Anybody else? And then we can move on. Oh, I see one. Okay. Let's see, Deborah. Nice. That's some great value.
That is.
And this one's got that helmet in the foreground. That looks great.
Excellent. Yeah, and you got the perspective and posturing right. Very nice. Much faster than I did. Excellent.
Well, you have to talk and draw at the same time.
This is true. Yes. That's why. Yeah.
I keep interrupting you. So, all right. Well, then it looks like maybe we're ready for the next round.
All right. Pull it here. Okay. All right. Oh, and I can already see I might need to enlarge these two images. For this next one, we have an action shot. And our reference image is another piece of nice line work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first zoom in on here, and we're going to note the type of style we're going to be looking for. So in this reference shot, we first off see that we have some dialogue. So feel free to, for any of these, add additional context. You know, Yvette is giving us the stories, which, you know, in comic book fashion can be, you know, rectangle asides or, you know, speech bubbles. Anything that you've observed in other comics is totally valid. But some of the common tools that we see employed in this one are we have some motion lines indicating that there's waving. Again, our figures are pretty proportional, relatively speaking, but they're definitely exaggerated in certain ways. If we look at the hand here, you know, it's a lot more condensed than hands usually are, but it is emphasizing the gesture, you know, looking at their posturing, how their feet are placed. We'll continue to look at this as we begin drawing. I think we better get started. This particular image involves perspective and definitely motion. So I can already see that we're going to want to add some of those same motion lines. So I am going to reset my tool. And Yvette, there's a good story with this one, so I will let you take it away.
There is. I'm going to tell the real short version because I think I want you to go ahead and get into some more technique, not to put you on the spot, but I think that's what people are craving tonight. But Carlton Brosius, this collection, his father was a Civil War veteran, and he served, he joined in like 1898. I think I'm going to get the year wrong, but he also served as a physical trainer. He was known for his physical training capabilities, and he was in the 1920 Olympics in Antwerp. So he was on the fencing team, and he was also in the tug-of-war team, and the tug-of-war team placed. He was an alternate for the fencing, so he didn't actually compete in fencing. But we have an amazing collection from Carlton Brosius from his Olympic experiences and his military experiences, of course. But this is, in fact, an image from our collection. But go ahead with instruction, because I know people really want that tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so right off the bat here, I know that I want to exaggerate this posture, and I'm going to try to at least do a little bit of forced perspective, which is that technique of if something's, you know, coming at you, it looks way more exaggerated and big than it would appear in a photograph. So, you know, more like, you know, how being right up by a camera would, you know, you try to punch at your camera, your fist is going to look twice as big as your face. And so we're going to try to do a little bit of that, although not too much. So I'm really trying to roughly sketch out the shapes in this one. Getting down the angles of the limbs. And the things that are coming at us are his elbow, which we've exaggerated a little bit, and then this leg. So I'm going to take some liberties on the photo and really have it coming at us. Yeah, I will be using this reference image, but also, you know, some of the classic techniques employed in, you know, superhero type comic. This is definitely that type of action. I want to plot out. We have his center point here, and this line, even though it doesn't appear in the image, just shows the angle at which his torso is moving away from us. If I were to complete the circle, it'd be like, you know, if it was kind of a cross section of his torso, just to really convey that he is angling in for this. Insert proper fencing from here. Rest. And then as his arm gets further away, it's going to get a lot smaller. So, before we get too far at his head.
So as his arm gets further away, the shapes get a little bit smaller?
I would say so. Okay, get it. Okay. And it's great in this photo, his arm is blurred because it's moving so fast. So we can either add in these marks, or you can do, you know, this classic type motion blur, although ideally all of those are parallel, really show the trajectory. I think we'll go ahead and give some in the fashion of this drawing, but okay. Start to add some of his outfit details, but I also want to make sure that we get the rest of the scene here. So now we'll be adding in his opponent. Again, before we get into any kind of detail, we want to make sure that we plot all of the major shapes. Get his legs. Make sure, relatively speaking, they're fighting on the same plane. There's nothing worse than spending a lot of time working on detail only to find out that, you know, your characters are just missing one another based on where you have them focusing. So you really want to make sure that you set the scene before.
I was going to ask that. When you say they're fighting on the same plane, can you maybe expand on that a little?
Yeah, I didn't do it for this drawing, but one thing you can do is really make sure for an image like this, I know some of you are familiar using perspective techniques when drawing like a cityscape where you have a lot of parallel and perpendicular lines that, you know, can all be focused in on one or 2 points, you know, therefore 1 or 2 point perspective. But action scenes can have the same kind of effect. So we are basically at eye level with these two people. Their shoulders are even in this image, but we can see, and it's nice that we have the boards on the deck as reference, that there is a focus point back here, and the scene kind of radiates from that. So if it's helpful to you in your drawing, you can plot that point and have lines radiating from that, just to make sure that you are really on top of it. And let's see, I will sketch them out as best I can.
It almost looks like those are motion lines too. But
Well, exactly. And, I feel like it's more common in anime and manga, but those lines are, utilized for exactly that, to really emphasize the energy in an image and really help, draw your eye along the, the point of action. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, leave them in there. Make this as action-packed as you want. Otherwise, you can always go back and erase them, but they can be a pretty helpful tool when you're plotting that out. So I didn't draw the line far enough, but you can kind of see that they are on the same line there. And then if we continue to radiate from that point, their shoulders are going to line up too, even though our figure closest to us is in more of a crouch. So it's thinking about all the relative positioning. Interact the way you want them to. And now that I have things plotted how I want them, we can start doing some of the, I would say, more subtle exaggerations as shown in this particular comic reference. We'll get into clothes details. Bump this up again. And you can always add additional comic features. Perhaps we would add a little shine mark to indicate the point of the foil to highlight the danger there. Some motion lines to this arm too. And what I'm not focusing on quite as much tonight, but you can certainly go back in and do yourself, is the shadow. There is a good amount of shading in this reference image, so it would definitely be in the style to do so. I think based on time here, the background will also have to be on your own time.
well, and I mean, I hate to like maybe not get through all the images, Anna, but I'd like to take a little kind of survey of folks want to. This one's developing so nicely with the action that I almost want to, if you
Oh.
and you can tell me no, but like take the temperature and see if people want to maybe stay on this one for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, that would be fine with me.
I'm gonna just look. I'm looking at everybody's images, videos. So if you guys want to do like a thumbs up, if you want us to keep working on this one for a little bit longer, if we don't get any reaction, yeah, I see some shrugs. I got a thumbs up. Why don't we spend a couple more minutes on this one, and that means you'll have to maybe wrap up with choose one of the last two. Is that okay with you?
Oh yeah, fine by me.
I just think this one's developing so nicely. Yeah, I got a couple of yeses. So
yeah, we do have some good action. So,
I think I'd also like to see where everybody's drawings start developing with this one.
Yeah.
This is a
Agreed.
fun one. Your action, the way this came together is just wonderful.
So, yeah, right now I am adding in some very threadbare scenery, but for an action shot like this, that's kind of what you'd want. These guys who are not even necessarily paying attention to the match are not the focal point. So we give some nice context, but don't need to be where we spend our.
And I just want to jump in real quick, ladies. Stoughton is really getting into this drawing. That was an excellent choice to stay on it. We have Stoughton over here in her fencing gear, it looks like.
Oh. Thank you so much for sharing. That's cool. Oh, wait. We'll make sure we come back to you, Stoughton, to share, because Hannah's pinned to Hannah's shared full screen right now. So
That's right. Sorry.
on the drawing, but we're going to scroll through after this drawing, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll give it, I would say 2 more minutes. What I'm going to use the last little bit of time for is to get some of these shadows in, because high contrast conveys action. We really want to try to pump that up a little bit. Okay, and there we can see. So. Really try to give it some dimension here and bring it to life. And what I love about this image too is, you know, you see his pose here, but then you get the actual like sideways stance in the shadow. So we definitely want that in there too. I'll double down on the pose. And I'll be doing kind of a rough version of it since changing tool sizes can be a pain mid shade, but I trust you all will do better.
Yeah, so I'll give you 2 more minutes, Hannah, and then we'll throw it out to folks to show us their drawings as we wrap up. But I keep going for a couple minutes.
Perfect.
I think Carlton would be proud. And we didn't get to a couple of the last drawings, but Hannah and I have been talking about maybe doing cartoons and comedic relief part 2 and doing another round of cartoons, because I think it's a lot of fun to get this gesture into the military experience. So if Hannah's willing to come back, we will be able to cover the 2 drawings she didn't get to in time. So don't you worry about a thing.
Indeed. Right. Let's go ahead. Ooh. Shadow over here. I will turn it to you all because I would like to see what everybody else has been doing.
Well, if you, I don't know, let me see if I pin the video, spotlight the video, if it takes away your screen share. Stoughton, see, I can't tell what everybody else sees, so
Okay. Give me 1 more minute.
Yep.
And then. I think you can see a sliver of the blade, so I just want to add that nice detail.
This is that part as artists where we're like, no.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, you're fine.
Exactly.
You're totally fine.
Yeah. I feel like I could continue drawing into this for another couple hours.
I
With
think
that, I feel like we're at a decent stopping point. I have enough little motion lines and add a few more scuff marks, but go ahead, Yvette.
I think
Call
that'd be
on
great.
people to show.
Well, Stoughton, if you're willing, I'm going to spotlight your video here. 'Cause we've got you
Excellent.
came fully armed in the costume. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, you were able to get the perspective.
The commitment.
I know. Thank you so much. And thank you for the commitment. That's right. Okay, let me go back to my gallery view. Anybody else would like to share? Let's see. Oh, we got Deborah. Let me spotlight.
Nice.
Deborah, we're going to have to get you to like scan those and send them into us so we can keep them for the archive. Let me unspotlight you. All right, I'm looking around the room. Anybody else? Let's see. Don't be shy. It's okay. You want to pull yours up one more time, Hannah, so we can take a look at it?
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, so we were able to cover quite a few styles tonight. I really enjoyed this drawing though, and thank you for extending the instruction. Mike Olson, who is on staff with our education team, shared in the chat, if you guys want to know more about Carlton Brocious, he did share a blog post about that story. It's a really great, fun story. I'm happy that Hannah was willing to do some more instructional though, because when people want, that's what you guys come for. We'll give you what you want. And for those of you, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. If this is your first time on Drink and Draw, my name's Yvette Pino, and I am the Traveling Art Exhibit Coordinator at the Wisconsin Veterans Museum, which is why my voice continued to chime in and give you a little bit of interesting stories about the images that we selected from our collection. So thank you all for coming to Drink and Draw tonight. We always enjoy, oh, Hannah's putting in some thought bubbles for, oh, they say, oh, thank you. What is the plural? What do you call participants in fencing? What would each person be called?
I think Stoughton might best be able to answer that one.
Stoughton? You're unmuted, Stoughton.
Awesome. Just fencers. Yeah. You're identified more by your weapon, so foil, FA, saber.
Okay.
And that's
I
foil.
just,
And this is foil too.
that's foil.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I was it's one of those things where I was, like in the military, we always don't want to call the other branch of service by the wrong name. So, as is in sports, you want to make sure you're getting it correct. If you guys have any more questions, I'm going to look in chat one more time, see if there's any last questions. Oh, and Mike also shared the blog on Helen Bolofsky from our website. So if you wanted to check that out. Also, don't forget, you can look at the blog post for today and see these images, and you can see some more drawings from our collection. There is a little gallery in there. And feel free to email me, Yvette.pino, P-I-N-O, at dva.wisconsin.gov, and I'm happy to share those stories with you. And yeah, Mike just referenced the blog for the Drink and Draw post as well. We are doing Drink and Draw one Friday every month. I believe it's the second Friday of every month. So we'll be back here in September. The artist will be to be determined. It might be Hannah, it might be me. We will let you know as soon as possible, but we will be here no matter what. So again, like I said, if Hannah's willing to come back and talk to us about comics and cartoons again, I think this was really great and a lot of fun, and I think we should do more because I would really like to share more of these amazing drawings from our collection. They don't get a chance to be seen very often. And Brittany Strobel, our processing archivist, is here tonight, and it's because of her amazing research and reference skills that she guides me to these amazing images so that I may share them with you. So thank you, Brittany. She's here tonight. Eric, do you have anything you want to add? We'll remind everybody to thank the Wisconsin Veterans Museum Foundation as well.
Well, and I just want to echo Carol's sentiments as well. We really miss having everybody at the museum for these events. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to that point soon. We're not quite sure when that is yet. But until then, we will continue to have them virtually on the same platform that you're enjoying tonight. But yeah, Carol, as soon as we can get everybody back in live and in person, that'll be a big plus for all of us. Also, I just want to highlight some events that we have coming up. Next week, we have our trivia night programming. And then the week after that, we have our movie night programming. Information for all that can be found on our website. So if any of those sound interesting to you, we would certainly welcome you to go to our website, check out the descriptions, and sign up for those. There's going to be free programming, just like this drink and draw event. And these events will continue throughout the fall. So keep coming back to our website and checking in and finding out updated dates for all of these programs. I just want to give a quick thank you again to Hannah. You did a great job tonight, and your last little bit of narration there on the fencer, foiled again, I thought was kind of hilarious. And again, yes, you're absolutely right, Yvette. Thank you to the Wisconsin Veterans Museum Foundation for their continued support in these free programs. And of course, thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. We could sit here and look at each other, or at least the staff members, but without everybody showing up tonight and participating and showing their drawings as we go along, that's what really makes all this worthwhile for all of us. And yeah, I know Yvette would echo that 100 times. So thanks for all your participation tonight, and we certainly look forward to having everybody back again next month.